So
Most definitely. That's
yeah,
why we gotta let the people know. Here in episode 11 of the Block to Block podcast, the best podcast in the world for all things Web3. Here we break down the technology, what's going on in the market, and the ways in which you can benefit. I am NFT and Jai.
and I am Web3 Wayne.
And over here, the talk is different.
Always, always.
Man, let's start the pod. But first, Derek, please bless the people with the disclaimer.
I got you. So just so y'all know, this podcast is for general information purposes only. In no event will we be liable for any loss or damage derived from the information provided. Please conduct your own research, your own due diligence, and of course, consult a financial advisor and or any other certified professional you think could make you that guap. Let's get the pod started.
Let's get it started. We had to add that in because, you know, while we do the research every day and try to simplify this entire Web3 world for you all,
Yep.
we definitely want you all to be empowered to do your own due diligence and also realize like we're not your certified advisor.
Nope.
So you gotta,
This is to
don't
give you
come to us.
look, for real, this is to give y'all the baseline information. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You go and talk to your financial advisor, you at least know what you're talking about. So, we wanted to make sure that, one, we gave a disclaimer, but also, we let the people know, we let y'all know that definitely go see somebody, talk to somebody. If you're thinking about investing and you want some guidance, that's not what we do. We simply, let you know what's going on in the market and demystifying that Web3. So
Absolutely. Now, with that, speaking of like certain market activity, man, the Web3 world has been jumping, Derek,
crazy, crazy.
jumping. So, I want to talk about like a huge piece of news that occurred last week that doesn't seem super directly related to Web3, but is actually very tied to it.
Yep.
That is Elon Musk acquiring Twitter for 44 billion.
44 Bs.
So,
44
as we
Bs.
know, Twitter is one of the biggest social media platforms in the world. And Elon Musk, for some months, he's been going through this negotiation process of taking Twitter from being a publicly traded company to being privately owned by him. And the acquisition went through last week as him being, now the leader of Twitter
She
for
twit.
44 billion.
Bird.
Free the
I
bird
got
is what he's been saying. And it's
free
interesting
bird. Bird.
because like for him, he's been saying like he wants Twitter to become a digital town square, if you will, in which everybody has a voice that empowers them and they're able to really utilize free speech.
Yep.
In addition to trying to really ramp up the business model for Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
so it can be like, a high performing tech company.
And Elon is also a big proponent of the Web3 as well, the Web3 world, the Web3 community. Of course, he is big, probably the main person when it comes to Dogecoin. That's just like, hey, to the moon, Dogecoin to the moon. And
Hmm.
so, we're gonna see now just Twitter really stepping more and more into that Web3 world. Actually, if you go back to the last episode, the quick take of the episode was actually about a new feature that Twitter is looking at adding where you can buy and sell NFTs directly through Twitter, right? So
Exactly.
go check it out. They're starting with some beta platforms, beta NFT platforms, spanning a bunch of different blockchain infrastructures or blockchains, I should say. So already you can kind of see the impact of Elon coming in, really how he's looking at implementing that Web3 into what Twitter already does, which is you know uh, really that community piece, but where the Web3 community and voice has been strongest.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a move that has been very impactful within the Web3 space because, as you mentioned, Derek, like when it comes to Web3 personalities, enthusiasts, or just people looking to be a part of the community, they primarily start on Twitter. That's where a lot of the activity occurs. I mean, even ourselves, right? We've been a part of a good amount of Twitter spaces when we spoke with like different communities about different NFT projects, what's the value of this blockchain technology and the ways in which people could like benefit for it. Sounds like a podcast. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. But Twitter
Yeah,
has been really that home, that central hub, in addition to like Discord as well, but it really starts on Twitter when you want
yeah,
to see the entire ecosystem, if you will. And like t- going back to like Dogecoin, like you said, like Elon since 2019 has been a huge proponent of that cryptocurrency, which start off as a meme coin, right? Like it started off as a joke,
yeah,
but they had like a huge rally. Like they went up in a lot in value once the announcement of Elon coming over got into the press. Like the coin jumped up like 29% rally. It went from being like worth 7 cents to almost 15 cents. So like almost a
mhm,
double in like the value. And we've been seeing just like a lot of speculation, a lot of activity, a lot of excitement within that community because the idea is, hey, perhaps we can be the coin or the crypto that is integrated into Twitter's business practices
yeah.
because Doge is accepted with some of Elon's other businesses.
Exactly. Exactly. And I mean, we see too, Elon is bringing in, some heavy hitters that are heavy in the crypto space.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, A16Z, they're
Emerson Horowitz, shout outs.
yep, 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 yep. So one of the guys working at A16Z is actually temporarily working with Twitter, right? And that if that doesn't signal, that they're bringing in a bunch of different people, a bunch of different perspectives, high level impact individuals to to the table to really flesh out, hey, how do we make Twitter this centerpiece for communities for this Web3 world? How do we leverage what Twitter is already doing, what Twitter already is, and expand on that? And I mean, at the end of the day, it's a business, right? So how do they expand on it? But how do they make money from it, right? How can they get into the game to where they can position themselves to you know be worth the 44 billion that Elon paid for?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So really just like the overall takeaway for you, the viewer, is, pay attention to what's going on in Twitter because one, there's a lot of discourse around, people wanting to stop using the platform because of their apprehension about Elon's direction, which is totally understandable. However, it's still worth to pay attention to what Twitter is doing, right? Because once again, this is still the number one space or hotspot for Web3 communities to, really engage one another and like grow their platforms. And two, like just seeing the moves that he's taken or could possibly be taken with like coins such as Dogecoin and who knows, whatever crypto that may soon be integrated. And like we said last week, like they're bringing a way to like, allow for like minting and purchasing of NFTs within the platform. So
Yeah,
definitely pay attention because as we mentioned, these Web2 companies are diving into Web3.
diving into it. And I mean, come on, man. How apprehensive are people really? They're tweeting that they're going to leave Twitter and then start a whole discussion about how they're leaving Twitter because of Elon. Come on, man.
On Twitter.
They say, oh, this, that, and the third about Elon, but everybody still wants a Tesla, right? Like, at the end of the day, he may not pander to certain people. He may not, we may not agree with his personal views. But at the end of the day, too, right? Like we know that he's good at building quality products. So I'm excited to see, in terms of quality, what comes from Elon stepping into Chief Bird position. You know what I'm saying? Like what does that mean
Or
for Chief Bird? What does that mean for Twitter? What does that mean for us too, right? Like how does that transform Twitter? I know I've had to delete the Twitter app many a times because I'm like, man, I'm on this app too much,
yeah,
too much. So I mean, it's one of those things. It's one of those things.
it's one of those things. But the big question that we all have to answer, like even bigger than Web3 is you finna pay $8 a month for that blue check?
Oh man. You know, it's funny because I've been thinking about that. Like right now, I would not pay no $8 for no verification check. But we don't know what's coming next, right?
Mhm.
So, you know, the big thing that Elon has been talking about, the big argument that he made before buying Twitter about, you know, how Twitter can be better is getting rid of bots, right?
Mhm.
So there may be a point in time where it's like, all right, like if you don't have this verified account, you haven't verified your identity, you know, we're kicking you off the platform, or you know,
Yeah,
you get these restrictive, very, very restrictive rights where you can't tweet unless you have a verified account, or
very possible.
it's I think it can evolve into a pay to play type of situation where, you know, honestly, for what Twitter is in terms of, you know, just that connection and being able to see like the news and hearing directly from these personalities and influencers. You
Mhm.
know, I think right now we're of course pushing back because nobody wants to go from paying $0 to $8. But if you look at, like, you know, in America, a lot of our apps are free, but in Europe, right, people are paying for the apps, right? They're paying to get a lot of these applications. So, I mean, it's only a matter of time before I think not only Twitter, but a lot of those social media platforms kind of, you know, shift gears a little bit and change up the model to where that's the norm. We have to get with it or get lost.
Very possible. Like they can really shift that business model from like to like a freemium model to where it's like a subscription tier base, right? So who knows? Like it's definitely exciting times because everything is rapidly evolving. It's very interesting to see these companies go from Web 2 into Web 3. And which is why you need to stay tuned with the podcast because we're covering these stories each week and trying to give you the know-how.
Keep tuning in. Keep tuning in. Mama, do get into our next topic. I gotta step away for 1 second.
Okay, okay. Web 3 Wayne. So the next topic is Instagram. So as we speak about a lot of these Web 2 companies going into Web 3, Instagram, which is owned by Meta, formerly known as Facebook, is also in the fold. Instagram is now allowing for you to mint and or which is another word for creating and sell NFTs. And so in the near future, right, they want to unroll this feature in which within the digital collections portion of your account, you can start creating your own NFTs and start selling them like on Instagram. And it's definitely like a play into how these companies want to really venture into like blockchain technologies or Web 3 technologies. And they really see the value, right? Because as we mentioned even last week, we have Reddit, like a social media platform similar to Twitter, who we talked about as well. Reddit is at a point in which they overtook OpenSea, who was the number one NFT marketplace. And now Instagram, which has a user base of like, I want to say a billion users, is diving into this as well. So you can only imagine, right? Like the implications. You have a platform that has like a billion users. What if like 10% of them start using like this NFT feature, right? Which would be like 100 million folks. Like it won't necessarily be like that from the rip, but you can only imagine.
Oh yeah, time will tell. I mean, shoot, we often have the, you know, uh, we often think about things in shorter terms, right? We're thinking about like, oh, what's going on this year, specifically with Meta, right? They've been getting a lot of flack in the news because I think right now, last quarter they might have took a $10 billion loss, if I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken, something around that number. And so they're getting a lot of flack in the news because they're spending so much money on R&D, not
Yeah.
just, you know, when we talk about Web 3, right? We're not just talking about NFTs here. We're not just talking about crypto. We're also talking about the metaverse, right? We're talking about what that looks like in terms of virtual reality, augmented reality, and Meta is investing heavy, heavy,
They
heavy,
changed the
heavy.
name to Meta because they want to be synonymous with the term metaverse, right? And they
Exactly.
have these products like the Oculus.
Yeah.
Like, what we really have to pay attention to is the fact that for years, Facebook and Zuckerberg and team have been really heavy in this Web3 space. Like,
Hmm.
remember Libra, which was supposed to be the cryptocurrency that they launched, but it died simply because of regulation. But that was like an
Hmm.
initiative they was doing years ago in which they wanted to have a cryptocurrency. And once
Right.
again, Facebook has like 1 billion users.
Yep.
That's like a
Yep.
nation. That's like the size of like China, bro.
Man, I seen this thing where it was talking about just the like comparatively the amount of money that Meta is spending, in terms of R&D for the metaverse, and like comparatively at this point, they may be up there with the Apollo mission in terms of investment, which is crazy. Like it's really crazy, but the crazy thing about it too, which I think they didn't really talk too much about, in that it was a podcast I was listening to, funny enough. But what they didn't mention though is, like you said, they have more than 1 billion people that's on their platform, right?
Hmm.
1 billion people that they have access to pretty much for free marketing, if you will. And so, you know, they're spending a lot of money, but they would compare them to, like, Apple. I think, in total to get the iPhones off the ground might have been like 20. I want to say it might have been, no, it's like 3.6 billion maybe that they spent in total just getting that iPhone off the ground,
Right.
versus I think right now they're at about like 23 billion. Don't take these numbers at very much face value. I'm kind of going off the top of my head when it comes to these numbers, but all of that to say, right? They're putting a large investment into it, and they have this access to this huge market that right now, the biggest thing in their revenue model, their business model, is advertising, right? But you go from advertising to hardware, then you're putting yourself in a different category. For instance, Apple is $1 trillion company, right? And Apple doesn't have 1 billion people using the Apple iPhone or any of the Apple products, right? Nor do they really have a direct line to market to people about those devices. They have to pay for that, right?
Mm.
Versus Meta, they already have people on the platform. They can slowly bring people along, similar to like what Reddit did, and they have access to over 1 billion people. So I think that it's very interesting how, I think they're setting their different platforms up to really be, that major hub when it comes to Web3 and the metaverse and whatever
Oh
you
yeah.
want to call it. Very interesting.
I'll even be bold enough to give this prediction. I would say the majority of tech companies are going to have some sort of NFT marketplace. And just go back on the episodes that we've been covering, right?
Yep.
Starbucks, a coffee company, they're partnering with Polygon to have their own NFT marketplace. Then we have Reddit, social media company. They overtook OpenSea as the number one NFT marketplace.
Yep.
Twitter is slowly coming out with their own NFT marketplace. Instagram, which we're talking about today, they're slowly coming out with theirs as well. And just to like kind of dive into like some of the opportunities for Instagram users, right? So this right now is like in a beta test for like certain digital creators, but they want to unroll it for like all digital creators
Mm,
within Instagram. And what's interesting enough is Meta or Instagram would not charge any fees for displaying or sharing your digital collectibles, also known as NFTs, on IG or Facebook. And you're not going to be charged any additional fee for selling them until at least 2024. So,
really?
more likely than not, like next year is just going to be a test period for them in which they
Right.
want to see how many people are using these digital collections because, you know, once you have these NFTs, you can share them on your feed, and people can really see your gallery, if you will, right? So
Right.
the obviously going to like take the time to like just test out, see what's the user adoption rate, get people really interested in like selling and making money on Instagram or off Instagram. Like you can create them on IG and then even like sell them on a different platform like D Timbuktu or OpenSea or what have you, or Reddit, right?
Yep.
And like then they're probably going to transition to, okay, y'all had all this free money y'all was making. Now here's some of the rules because we figured this thing out.
Yep. We know
So
exactly where we can make our money at.
exactly. So there's definitely opportunities for you creators, right, to use Instagram as a platform to like learn about the NFT process because they on their end are making it easy from like an end to end perspective to like create it, mint it, and sell it.
And they're using a concept that we've talked about in multiple episodes, right? And we talked about, in previous episodes with the event that we put on, is that they're meeting people where they are, right?
Yep.
You at the end of the day, you have to be innovative and not only using the technology, but innovative in how you're approaching, introducing people to this new world, this new technology, right? So like the internet, for instance, think probably one of the biggest things that has really pushed it forward is the ability to go and purchase your everyday items, right? Like why not? I mean, especially pandemic, but in those early days, why wouldn't I go online and give me a book, or go to eBay and get this collectible, or Craigslist and find something for my house? Like I feel like that's a lot of how I saw my parents and grandparents get introduced into it, right?
Mhm.
Like they were introduced by things that they kind of understood, right? My grandma
Yeah.
is huge into going to garage sales, huge into it, right?
Mhm.
And Craigslist is basically, an internet platform, a garage sale on the internet, right? Like,
Exactly.
so um I think it's validating, and don't just listen to us, people, just look at the evidence as well. We talk about, hey, you got to be willing to experiment, you got to be willing to understand where your customers are, and how you can
Mhm.
use technology to work in their favor, and make their lives easier. These are the things that we're talking about, right? Is all right, I already have this thing, let me slowly bake in Web3, NFTs, crypto, whatever it is, into something that they understand, and make it as easy as possible for them to get into it. And you know, if you're in early, you don't have to worry too much or as much on the
Mhm.
profits right now, because it'll pay off tenfold on the back end.
Definitely. Yeah. So a lot of great activity. Once again, we're gonna stay following the story, and we'll cover it as different developments come out. Man. Now
Yes, sir.
with
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean, I think it's like almost perfect segue when we talk about like the community aspect and meeting people where you are. Um, I think we've talked a little bit about DAOs. I know that's something that we've discussed internally. I don't know if we've touched on it on the podcast yet. So I think we might need to get into a topic about DAOs. You got anything for the people that has anything to do with DAOs, or what we got? What we got? What's the next topic?
yeah, we wanted to take a different approach with this segment and
Okay.
like really break down like how you can use this tool to build out your project or your business or what have you, right? So let's start off with what is a DAO? Decentralized Autonomous Organization, right? DAO, DAOs. Basically, it's a community led run organization where there's no central leader. That's
Mm,
what it is. Like a real power to the people type thing where it's really democratized and everybody has a stake in pushing the mission forward. So from like a technology standpoint, how a DAO would work is, let's say you have like a group of people, all of them will have a token, right? Called the Timbuktu token. right?
I like the
And
sound of that. I like the sound of that.
love the sound of it. And because you have this token, it grants you membership to the DAO. And because you have membership within the DAO, anytime that DAO wants to vote on an initiative they want to push out, you have the ability to cast a vote, right? And the entire community of that DAO casts votes. And, just like any basic democracy, whatever the majority wants, that's what you're going to do. And
Mm,
so a lot of these decisions are really autonomous or systematic because of the blockchain technology. Now, in addition to that, oftentimes these DAOs will have what they're called a treasury fund. And the treasury fund is just like how it sounds like. It's a account, right? Usually like a different wallet in which they will have different crypto, like funds, like your capital to like do your projects.
yep. Yep.
And that's what's used to like really pull money together and execute on your ideas. So what's dope is these DAOs are allowing technology to have communities to come together in an organized manner, vote on initiatives systematically, where there is very little to no error for corruption, really, because everything's verified on the blockchain, and pull your resources and money together to get things done. So that was actually like super duper duper dope.
Yeah, man. DAOs is seems like it's gonna transform just how we're looking at investments and how we're looking at pooling money together. And man, it's really, the future of how communities kind of operate. And expanding on what you were talking about, how that technology, is really running that community, running that organization. I think it's important to point out that, you know with the DAOs, you can pretty much code into how you want it to operate. So, like, how do you want voting to work? How, you don't technically have a leader, right? It's not a centralized leader, but you can vote on, leaders, right? Of course, you're an organization. You're gonna need somebody to at least give some direction,
Mm,
put on the votes, have some type of judge slash judgment type role.
your
Um,
governance, yeah.
exactly, exactly. So, we've shout out to Black Women Talk Tech. We, seen some conversations of people who are in DAOs and have been voted presidents of their DAO, right? And their sole mission isn't to be, rah rah, this is what we're doing, this and the third, but more so just give some more framework and give a voice to this thing that is voiceless without it, right? I mean, it has the community voice, but there is nobody to really take that helm. So, there's so many different ways that you can set it up, right? Like the voting can be around, if we've put money into a fund, where are we going to allocate that money, right? Do we want to, let's say a community member has an NFT project that they want to launch? Look, let's put part of our funds there. Or,
Mhm.
I've seen some people have what's called like Susu applications, or, if you don't know what Susu is,
Hey, I know
people
all
put,
about that.
all about Susus. So people will put money into group fund, if you will, family and friends and stuff like that. Constantly save, and anytime that that money is needed in an emergency or something like that, they kind of help out and put some money towards um, whatever that family member or friend may be doing, or if they need that money for an emergency, they'll kind of put that money towards that. So really, this is just automating that process of like, hey, this is what we want to spend the money on, right? Like you don't have to have like the full on conversation and hey, this and the third, and you don't have to have somebody like managing the funds and dispersing the funds. Like all of that can be coded into the
Mhm.
program and work for you.
Yeah, and because of the nature of the blockchain, all transactions are public. They're all can be viewed. So it becomes a trustless system, meaning that you don't have to have your faith in one individual to do right by you. Instead, you have the technology doing all the work for you.
Yep.
So now I want to give a example of like how a creative can like use a DAO from like the ground level up, right?
Okay.
All right, bet. So I'm gonna use. So let's say you're a creative who's an author, right? And let's say you write out like maybe like a comic book series or a novel or some kind of format of that nature, right? The key thing you want to remember about DAOs, just like any community, is you need a unifying ideology. And what's dope about creatives is you possess a superpower in which you can really align people of many different backgrounds simply because of your creative idea. So I'm gonna say, let's say you're a comic book writer, right? And you have, I'm a Star Wars nerd, I gotta admit. So let's say you have like this really dope sci-fi universe, or actually we both like anime. Let's say you do anime, right? And over time, like you build out like this comic book series of anime or manga series, and you have like different people that really like rock with your idea. You can use that and transfer it into a DAO. So you can say, hey, y'all, we're gonna like, I'm gonna just call it the Timbuktu manga, right? You're gonna get that Timbuktu token, and it's just 10 of us right now, but everybody gets this token, and we're all members of this DAO. We code in like our charter, if you will, like what's our rules for engagement, like what's the mission of this DAO, this organization, and we're also going to like set up this treasury fund. And as you continue to build out your project, you get more and more people into your DAO, then that's where the real magic occurs, right? Because then you can do stuff like, hey, y'all, like, you know, I'm gonna get airdrop you all this NFT because you're in this DAO, and that NFT is going to give you access to like a festival that we're going to put on for this for the manga, right? And then you can also have that treasury fund and say, hey, can everybody like put in, let's say, $100 or so into making sure that this festival occurs. And now you're pulling together resources to put on something dope for your community.
Yeah.
And let's even take it a step further. Let's say you get to the point in which you're like, yo, we can actually make this a show, right? You pull people's bread together, their capital together to make like an independent show if you want, and you post it on some kind of network. And because they're members of your DAO, they can get like revenue share as well.
Hey man, you giving the people too much free game, man. You
But I
niggas
just want you,
think this.
we just want people to know like,
Yeah.
you don't have to, it doesn't have to necessarily be like a super cool tech type business. It can
Right.
be literally anything. You can
Right.
be, let's say you're a farmer, you can have a DAO of farmers and you guys all pull together resources. So as we talk about like how traditional lenders oftentimes, especially when it comes to black farmers, don't give you the proper capital for you to like get your yield and your agriculture together.
Yeah.
Guys can like pull your resources together and like support one another. You can
Yeah.
do within like just about any industry.
Absolutely. I
You can
mean, outside of industries too. I mean, we've man, I've heard of so many DAOs. So it's just like, really, like this is what they're doing, or like, wow. So let's see. There is a Constitution DAO.
Yep.
So that was a DAO where pretty much a guy was, he basically said, hey, I'm starting this DAO. Our main objective is to buy the original copy of the Constitution or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, he got millions upon millions of dollars to try to buy the Constitution. I don't think it ended up working out.
They got outbid.
Yeah, funds got reimbursed to the people. It was cool, but it's a very interesting thing. We had Links DAO, or there is Links DAO, which is like a golf DAO. So basically, you um, join the DAO, you put in some money, and basically you get all type of exclusive perks and things like that to different golf courses around the country.
You see?
Right.
Or even go back to episode 1 when we talk about Ben DAO, which was the DAO that focused on giving like collateral loans based off of digital NFTs, right?
Yep.
Where members were like put their own NFT, let's say a Bored Ape Lock Club NFT, within the DAO's wallet, and as a result, that DAO will give them like a 40, I believe it was like a 40% credit line off of that NFT's value, in Ethereum.
Mhm.
So you
Right.
can do many things and like use DAOs to like solve real problems or just create dope experiences around
Yeah.
like your music, around your creative projects. So that's
Yep.
why we really wanted to like take this moment, because as you may have seen the theme, right? It's something that we're doing ourselves. It's something that a lot of these Web 2 companies are trying to do in Web 3. You gotta focus on building your community and bringing your community along the journey.
Yep.
And what better way than putting them in positions of empowerment when they can really be a part of the process, and even being in a position to like monetize, earn a little bit of bread from the initiative as well.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, man. I mean, also, why pass up the opportunity to work with Timbuktu? I mean, come on, man. The
Why?
best platform for
With D.
Web3, the Timbuktu. Of course, our platform is a physical NFT marketplace where we're using physical items, physical collectibles to put on these dope experiences and really bring people into Web3. So come on now, you stop playing yourself. The Timbuktu is who you want to work with. But definitely, outside of that too, if you ever have any questions about Web3 DAOs, anything that we're talking about, leave a comment. Of course, like, comment, subscribe, share, and definitely, like I said, reach out and we'll find time to really get into Web3 and the ways you can use it. So
Absolutely.
loving it.
With that,
With
I
that,
think everybody's been anxiously waiting on their seats, Derek, for your
oh,
legendary
oh,
quick takes.
okay, okay. What we got for the quick take today, man? Man, I think of all this talk about Web 2 doing all these Web 3 things. I think it's only right today we talk about the real, and the real is Web 3 is years away from matching Web 2. Years, right?
What do you mean?
So in this article I was reading, they were talking a lot about just when it comes to Web 3, we have a lot of work to do, right? It's very early. We talked a lot about how this is a space where builders can come in and build, and so that's gonna take that's what it's gonna take to get Web 3 to where Web 2 is, right? It's we're very much in the early days. I think right now, if you were to ask me, we are at this point where we kind of saw in the early 2000s where the bubbles are bursting with a lot of these companies and the things that they were doing to make millions upon millions of dollars.
Right.
Now it's starting to kind of bite them. But I think the big thing that the focus should be on is making sure as a builder that you're coming in with a little bit of a different mindset, right? You can definitely see with Web 3 that it's possible. Again, getting into the real, it's possible for it could be a very Orwellian type future, 1984 surveillance state. When we talk about mass surveillance and social credit systems, like what we're seeing in some other countries, not to be named. But when we talk about Web 2, it's built upon these fickle systems of foundations of contracts and terms of service and licensing agreements that can change pretty much with the sentiments of the time, with the philosophies of the leader of the company, and really Web 3. This is the chance for builders to come in and say, hey, we want to build something that's better. We want to build something that can truly push society forward, right? And so Web 3 is really about building that underlying infrastructure based on that strong cryptography and economic incentives, right? That are harder to subvert with personal biases. And of course, there's going to be some things baked into there that, we'll all have to contend with. But, Web3 is truly about taking our society to the next level, right? And
Definitely.
if you're looking to build in Web3, right? Again, it's very early. There isn't as much guardrail. There isn't, as much of that. This is what we're doing in this space yet. So if you're a builder and you're coming into it, come into this space with the intention to push the internet, with the intention to push society, with the internet. I mean, with the intention to push the common good forward, right? Focusing on the common good versus being at odds with that, right? Don't bring those same antiquated ideas into this new future. Who wants to build the future of the past? Nobody wants to do that,
Mm,
right? So be cautious as you come in as a builder in this Web3 space of the biases that you may hold with with your experiences from Web2. Try to be open to building a new landscape, right? So we want to hear from you guys. What do y'all want to see in Web3? That's going to be different from Web2. What didn't you like about Web2 that you see as a possible opportunity for builders in Web3 to come in and make a huge, significant impact for society? And that's the quick take, man.
yeah, I love it. I love it. Per always legendary. Derek always coming with the quick takes, always thought provoking segments, man. And you're right, like this is a new technological era. And in the words of a wise man, you got to think big. You got to stop thinking small. You got to think
Oh,
big.
you gotta think big.
You know what I mean? We're not going to say the full quote because we don't want to be, you know, demonetized or
Right.
whatever.
You gotta
But
think big.
you
You get the picture. You get the
get
picture.
the picture. But yeah, absolutely. I love it. I love it. Now, with that though, we got to do another important staple of this show, which is talking about the market, baby.
What's going on in the market?
Man, this is a crazy week for the macro economy in general because the Fed, once again, I think this might have been like our third time talking about it. They've raised they've raised rates. They raised interest rates by
Hmm.
75 basis points or 0.75%.
Woo.
So, yeah,
Heavy.
they're trying to fight inflation. So once again, just as a recap, the Federal Reserve Bank is the central bank of the United States, and their main mission is to set monetary policy, meaning they're controlling the money supply and they want to ensure that the economy is functioning in a healthy state. And right as we know, in here in the United States, we are in a period of a recession, even though they won't announce it officially. But we're in a recession. Let's not lie. We had two negative quarters of GDP, but we're also experiencing record high inflation. 40-year, like inflation that hasn't reached these levels since like 40 years ago. Right now, our inflation level is at 8.2%, meaning that the value that prices have been going up at a high rate and the value of our dollar has been diminishing. And so, as you know, this creates a nasty economic situation. And one of the main ways to fight inflation is to raise rates, because by doing so, the cost of borrowing becomes a lot more expensive. So things such as the rate on your credit card is going to go up. The
Yep.
rate on like loans, like an auto loan for getting a car, that goes up as well. So things become more expensive. However, your savings accounts, like that interest rate also increases. So you may see like high yield savings accounts that the rates have gone up. I know in my shout out to Ally Bank, not a sponsor of the show, but I use them personally. They they hit me up saying, "Hey, your interest rate and your high yield savings rate has gone up again." So
Okay.
this creates a
Like point
scenario.
0.001%.
uh,
Sure.
yeah, a little bit more than that. A point one, a point one.
Okay. 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 You're cooking with a little bit of grease.
You
Okay.
know, high yield, baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in all seriousness, this creates an environment where we, the people, consumers, are less likely to spend and we're more likely to save, right? And
Mhm.
that is supposed to combat inflation and see a decline, if you will, to this huge spike in prices. So that's
Yep.
what the Federal Reserve Bank is trying to do in general from like a macroeconomic standpoint, right?
Okay. Okay.
Now, when it comes to understanding markets, I don't care if it's real estate, if it's stocks, or even if it's crypto, you have to pay attention to what the macro economy or the overall economy is performing, because
Yep.
that will give you an insight as to how your space may be moving. Now, every time that the feds raise rates, we've been seeing like a negative impact to cryptocurrency, right? Because since people are less likely to spend their extra bread or the discretionary funds on like assets in general, why do you think they finna like spend it on something as volatile as crypto, man?
Yeah.
Like
Risk
Bitcoin,
adverse. People become risk adverse.
they become risk averse. Remember, Bitcoin and Ethereum, two of the largest cryptocurrencies with the majority of the market cap, they went they're at like 70% lower than their all-time highs from like
Ooh,
earlier within like not even a whole year. Bitcoin was at like 69K. Now it's a blessing if it hits 20.
man, I'm talking about there. The news is ringing bells. Bitcoin is back at 20K. What does this mean for the crypto market? And
And then it
yeah,
goes back to 19 the next day.
yep,
It's so like cryptocurrencies are so volatile, they fluctuate in price so much. And during these times, these recessionary times where you have high inflation, you know, the economy's tough, you want surefire bets. And
yep,
while crypto as an asset class is dope and it probably should be a part of your portfolio in general, it's not the surefire bet that's going to ensure that you can persevere during these tough times, right?
right,
So that's part of the reason why we've been seeing a lot of the decline in this Web3 space when it comes to like crypto and NFTs. However, that sounds negative, but in the words of the OG Warren Buffett, be greedy when others are fearful, and fearful when others are greedy. Back
mm,
when Bitcoin was like 69K, and all these folk were out here like selling NFTs for millions and millions, and it had no intrinsic value. That was
yep,
to be fearful because nothing made sense. But
right,
now we're in a position where NFT projects in general have to be packed with value in order for those valuations to make sense. And like these cryptocurrencies, sure they're at a low, but if you really believe in that crypto, now is the time for you to start buying it up. Now, once again, this is not financial advice. Personal finance is personal. But if you have like, if you're already investing in like certain asset classes that are like more surefire, like good index funds or real estate or what have you, and you have a little bit of extra bread, like now might be the time to get a cryptocurrency that you truly believe in and has a great value proposition for the low because everything's on a discount right now.
yes, sir. And it would be remiss if we don't say that what goes up must come down. What goes down eventually is gonna come back up.
Exactly.
And so, you know, we've been through this dance once or twice before where price starts to go down, hit hard times, and everybody is trying to get that I told you so moment out there. But at the end of the day, man, like as you've seen from all of our stories, from our 11 episodes, right? Everybody is moving to this space. There's a lot of money that's being put into this space. Right now, there is legislation that's, on the hill for them to basically bring legislation and bring some regulation to this space. Why?
Hmm.
So institutional investors can start putting money into
Exactly.
crypto, into these different projects, blockchains, whatever it may be. And so, I mean, if you think that, this isn't a good place to put your money, you're kidding yourself, right? Like if you just think that, hey, this thing is not going to be anything, man, it's already a part of the biggest companies, in the world right now. It's literally in Congress on Capitol Hill. And I don't think, we have a problem with people that think that Web3 is or crypto and NFTs aren't going to be a thing. I think at this point, it's more so how do you get involved? Where should you invest? Where you should this, that, and the third. Um, but I think at the end of the day, it starts with watching a podcast like ours consistently, right?
Mm.
Like, comment, share, subscribe, of course. Um, but also just pay attention to the news and, you know, where the big money is putting their money, right? Those
Exactly.
big organizations, those big companies, where are they putting their money? Who are they partnering with? Because 9 times out of 10, they're not going to let those companies fail. And of course, it never hurts to diversify as well.
It never
Options,
hurts. Never
options.
hurts.
So
So I'll say this, like, for those who are like still like, I don't know, like, definitely take the time to, rewatch every episode. Remember, we do this podcast on a weekly basis. This is episode 11. So within an 11-week span, we've seen reports of different types, large amounts of investment, strategic partnerships with like multi-billion-dollar corporations and Web3 projects, and talking about like the legislation as well that's trying to like really regulate the space a lot more. So it's really fast moving. There's a lot that's happened in just a 3 month span of doing this show, right? So definitely get involved, learn as much as possible. If you're interested in buying NFTs or cryptocurrency, especially crypto, I would suggest, like, you need to pair that fundamental analysis, so like really understanding the business proposition, and then that technical analysis as well, right? Like making sure you're buying at like the right price, and always consult with your financial advisor as well.
absolutely. And another little tidbit. I know we're not at free game just yet, but free game for the day is, for people that's like, okay, well, you're saying to do this research, try to understand like the business prospects. How do I do that? You can go on YouTube for the free. And so, okay, let's start with, you can go to, just put in, top cryptocurrencies by market cap. You can start there, right? And look at that list, and then go to YouTube again for the free. Put in that blockchain, that crypto, and then after the blockchain crypto, the name of that, put explained or what is said crypto. And I promise you, there are thousands upon thousands of videos that you can watch where you can get the game of like, hey, this is what they're trying to do with
Hmm.
this crypto, with this blockchain, with whatever it may be that you're going to put your money into. It's going to give you a baseline, and then from there, that's when you can say, all right, I at least have some understanding. Let me go talk to a financial advisor, or let me talk to my friend that's really into crypto and get a little bit more information. Let me hit up, these block to block guys, these Relink boys, the Timbuktu team, and let me talk to, the Timbuktu crew, and figure out like this crypto thing. Not that we're gonna give you financial advice, but we can at least put you in a
Yeah.
good position to win, like we do every week.
And two things, another great website too is coinmarketcap.com,
Yeah.
because they list, it's created by Binance, which we know is like the largest crypto exchange.
Mm,
And they list out all the cryptocurrencies, and they have links to like little summaries about like what this project is about. You can go to these projects' website and like just learn more as well. And tidbit number two, and it's really for you, Derek. Like perhaps we need to like start every once in a while just evaluating these blockchains and these projects for the people. Like
yeah.
like just segments in which we just talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, we could look into it. We could definitely add that to the podcast. I think that's what the people need.
Because not only need, but I think that's what they want. Like I've been hearing some rumblings like, yo, y'all need to just Tell me.
I like tell me straight up. Y'all just tell me straight up. All right,
Right.
we gonna have to figure it out. We have to figure it
We have
out
figured it out.
for
Right.
sure.
And the last component on this market segment, once again, as we do each week, we like to just talk about like how the NFT market is performing, because that gives you a great idea of how much market activity is occurring within Web3. So within this 7-day period, we have seen total sales volume, or let's start with total sales. Total sales of NFTs being at 43,400 sales within the 7-day period. Now, that is down by 13.21%, right?
Woo.
So, pretty significant. Less NFTs are being sold. However, the main theme that occurs from each week is the overall value of NFTs barely declines. We saw a 0.80% decline in the value or the total sales volume of NFTs,
Wow.
down to 26.6 million.
So you telling me they had less so they had less total sales, but the volume by 10 to 15%, but only went down less than 1%. I mean that says a lot, man. It sounds like these, big players are still moving those NFTs. Any of the projects that have real value, they're still able to move their NFTs, move uh, that resale again, which has been huge when it comes to those NFTs and the royalties that come with them. That's still, those major players are still moving those assets. So man, that's crazy to think about. That's crazy to think about.
About packaging that value and leading first with value,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? And that's extra free game, right? You want to lead with value and you want to like really invest in these communities. And that's how you're successful in Web3.
Look, couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more, man.
Man, whew, we gave out so much game today, bro.
I don't even think the people really appreciate the amount of game. I mean, you was over here just giving the freebies, man. You gotta start charging for that type of knowledge.
Listen, we're leading first with value. We practice what we preach.
You right. You right.
This is what we preach, man. Whew.
So I mean I think that's it for today, man. We gave the folks all we could.
Most
We gave
definitely.
all
Most
we
definitely.
could.
Well, we thank you and we appreciate you all for tuning in once again. Make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, and share with your loved ones. Also, the podcast will be coming soon to all audio platforms. So
Yep.
you can probably expect that within like a week or so. However, once again, thank you. We appreciate you. I am NFT Njai,
And I am Web3 Wayne.
and the talk is always different.
Always. Always.
Peace. We catch you next week.